Tonight, Indigenous leaders lay out their expectations ahead of the Pope's arrival in Canada on Sunday. Also, the federal government is transferring land at the Batoche National Historic Site back to the Métis Nation. Plus, 2 of Canada's men's World Junior hockey teams are being investigated by police following alleged group sexual assaults in 2003 and 2018.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, July 22nd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Some residential school survivors from Saskatchewan will be in the Edmonton area this coming week for the Pope's visit. A number of Indigenous organizations are hoping the visit will lead to long-standing grievances being settled. Kelly Provo reports.
Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations Chief Bobby Cameron is thanking the Pope for coming to Canada and for his expected apology. But Cameron says the FSIN has 4 action items for the Pope after his visit. He says the Roman Catholic Church's doctrine of discovery needs to be totally eliminated. Experts say there's no doubt the doctrine contributed to the creation of residential schools. Cameron says First Nations artifacts and residential school records need to be immediately returned to First Nations and the survivors. And he is also calling for true compensation.
There are still thousands of residential school survivors who have been missed, who were not compensated properly, and we would ask the Pope that he would support us in calling for a complete reopening of this whole residential school site case.
Cameron says all priests and nuns who inflicted abuse, harm, and death on First Nations children also need to be brought to justice somehow.
They may think they have gotten away with it here on earth, but they're gonna answer to God. When you commit murder, you're going to answer to God sooner or later.
The Vice President of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan says the Pope's apology in Rome was a start. Michelle Leclerc says it will make a bigger difference for some people when he apologizes on Canadian soil. She says it also needs to go further.
In terms of, when he apologized for the actions of others. But it's my personal view that he should apologize for the actions of the Church.
Leclerc is hopeful the Pope's visit also leads to a resolution for survivors of the Isle Cross Residential School. She says they have not received the acknowledgement or compensation other survivors have. There are only about 650 of them still alive.
It closed in the 70s. You're looking at 6 generations of harm, 6 generations of trauma, and that trickles down. It just doesn't go away when the school closes.
It's a common hope for the Pope's visit. Representatives from the Friendship Centres of Saskatchewan and the provincial affiliate of the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples also brought up a resolution for survivors of the Isle Cross Residential School. The Pope lands in Canada on Sunday. Kelly Provo, CBC News, Saskatoon.
CBC News will have special coverage of the Pope's visit to Canada. It all begins at 11 a.m. on Sunday, local time. You can watch on CBC News Network, cbcnews.ca, the CBC News app, or on CBC Gem. The Back to Batoche Festival begins today. The Métis Culture Festival is celebrating a milestone. This year marks 50 years of gathering, and people are together again in person after 2 years of online festivities. This morning, a huge announcement made the celebrations even more special for the people in attendance. Kendall Latimer has more.
Hundreds of people burst into applause as the federal government announced it was giving land back to Métis people, signing the deal for 690 hectares of land at Batoche National Historical Site that's being transferred to Métis Nation Saskatchewan. It's a massive milestone for Métis people who have long fought for the rights to self-governance, self-determination, and land.
It's been a long journey, a short one in the span that we accomplished what we accomplished today. So it's been really aggressive conversations around land, and the government has been very cooperating.
The land at Batoche is rich with history, known as the heart of Métis Nation. It was the site of the 1885 Battle of Batoche, the final battle of the Northwest Resistance, the Métis people against armed Canadian forces.
A lot of my ancestors, Joe Vandal, Baptiste Vandal, Pierre Vandal, they were from St. Boniface, but they fought at Batoche. They were part of that historical resistance and against the Canadian government.
Now, as a federal government minister, Vandal says the government's position has changed tremendously.
We now realize that there's a great opportunity to make amends, to move forward in partnership. This is reconciliation.
Parks Canada will continue to maintain the land in collaboration with Métis Nation Saskatchewan. There are already plans underway for what's to come.
We're planning together in regards to what we can build on it. As a matter of fact, the land you're standing on, there'll be a youth center being built here with cooperation with the federal government.
He says he's looking forward to working with the federal government in the future. And short-term, thousands will gather at Batoche this weekend, proudly embracing Métis culture, taking in the song and dance and teachings at Batoche. Kendall Latimer, CBC News, Batoche.
A Winnipeg man accused of killing a Saskatchewan RCMP officer during a traffic stop will stand trial for first-degree murder. Alphonse Stanley Traverse was originally charged with manslaughter in the death of 26-year-old Constable Shelby Patton. The charge was upgraded to first-degree murder last November. Now, after a preliminary hearing, a judge has ruled there is enough evidence to proceed with a trial on the murder charge. Due to a publication ban, evidence at the hearing cannot be shared. RCMP have said Patton was hit by a vehicle in the town of Wolseley, just east of Regina, after he stopped what he suspected was a stolen truck. A Regina grandmother is starting a group that's aiming to stop violence and support Indigenous youth in the Queen City. It follows the killing of her grandson last month. As Dane Patterson reports, that's what pushed her to fight back.
Brenda Longman says her grandson, Jake Longman, dreamed of being a cage fighter. Now, she says Jake can't dream at all. Jake was killed by gunfire on June 29th, the 6th homicide in Regina this year. Brenda says it's a pattern that needs to stop.
It's because of my grandson this is coming forth. You know, I don't want his death to be in vain.
Brenda has formed a group called Matriarchs and Warriors United Against Violence. It's a women-led initiative intending to curb crime by bringing youth back to Indigenous culture. Indigenous people in Saskatchewan were killed at a rate about 17 times higher than non-Indigenous people in 2020. Saskatchewan RCMP says in the last 7 years, Indigenous people have accounted for nearly 3 of every 4 homicide deaths. Saskatchewan's rate is the worst among Canadian provinces.
Jake is just one of the many young people that lost their lives to this violence within the city here.
Brenda wants to include other families who feel the same way to enact change. Gangs are not the leading cause of Indigenous homicide according to Statistics Canada, but she says they are a concern in the community. She also wants to address social issues affecting youth. Police say those issues are what lead to high crime rates.
So those are issues that we have to be able to tackle if we want to prevent what often is that cause and effect.
Bray says the Matriarchs group is exactly what Regina needs to stifle criminal activity. Neither he nor the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples were surprised by the homicide rates. Both agreed the response needs to be proactive and from the community. It can't start at a 911 dispatch.
I always said that, it's important that our people, our, elders and our older people get involved to protect the young, protect our youth as well.
Bowden says gangs often advertise a sort of family feel to them. But it's just a farce, he says, and that these community groups are what's needed to combat gang violence. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Premier Scott Moe was in Maple Creek today for a town hall. He talked about various topics, including healthcare, education, and the economy, and also about the importance of Saskatchewan having more autonomy. Yasmin Correa was there and brings us the story.
The world wants what we have today.
About 50 people showed up to a town hall with Premier Scott Moe and Cypress Hills MLA Doug Steele. Autonomy was the topic of the day. Moe says Saskatchewan needs more of it to ensure the economy doesn't suffer from federal environmental and energy policies.
Where we're heading in this province is we're having a very close look at what the Constitution is, and under the guise of good fences make good neighbors, we're going to ensure that we are going to exercise all of our provincial jurisdiction within the confines of the Canadian Constitution.
Moe also spoke about autonomy at another town hall earlier this month, and he asked a former Saskatchewan Party MLA and former MP who recently was part of the Wexit movement to co-host closed-door meetings about increasing Saskatchewan autonomy this month. This Regina political science professor says wanting more independence from the federal government is not new, but he believes a closed-door meeting isn't a good approach.
I don't see that the public either would take anything that comes out of a kind of closed-door private session as being terribly legitimate.
Tom McIntosh also says it's not clear what more autonomy Saskatchewan actually needs.
Canada is, in fact, one of the most decentralized federations in the world. Our Canadian provinces have far more autonomy and authority than subunits in almost any federal state you can name.
Moe has previously said he wants Saskatchewan to become a nation within a nation. He says he's not interested in an independent Saskatchewan, but takes issue with federal environmental and energy policies like the carbon tax.
Our ongoing challenges with the federal government.
Saskatchewan's Attorney General and Justice Minister also talked about autonomy at a luncheon on Thursday. She says federal policies are thwarting economic potential in Saskatchewan.
The federal government is, in so many ways, anti-energy. Foreign investment in Canada has dropped by 50% over the last 5 or so years. That is a huge impact to our economy. And really the message that we are open for business. So we have to sell ourselves as something of a nation state, in quotes, for that reason.
Minister Ayre says it's time for Saskatchewan to channel its inner Quebec, and the Premier says Saskatchewan could be an energy powerhouse. But Moe says the government won't take legal action to increase autonomy unless it's necessary. Yasmin Ranea, CBC News, Maple Creek, Saskatchewan.
A hit and run involving a truck and a Saskatoon overpass may end up costing the city more than $750,000. It happened in February when a truck that was hauling a load that was too high hit the bottom of the 108th Street overpass on Circle Drive. The city says as a result, Saskatoon may be on the hook for the repair bill. Administration is asking council to approve freeing up the money from a reserve fund. City Council will talk about that at their meeting on Monday.
Each year I slowly just started digging up a little bit more and more of grass, and now I don't have any grass left and I'm running out of spaces, so I've moved a little into my neighbor's yard and I moved onto the roof and the back alley, and I even have a community garden spot a few blocks away as well.
Saskatoon's gardening community is ready to show off 2 years of growth to their friends and neighbors. A dozen planting enthusiasts will showcase their efforts as part of tomorrow's Passport Garden Tour. Participants can visit 6 of the city's standout gardens on a self-guided tour, and there's a bonus garden outside of Saskatoon as well. Passports can be purchased from Early's Farm and Garden Centre. As for the weather they'll have for that tour, Ethan will have more on that after the break. Stay with us. The Saskatchewan Roughriders will be looking for redemption when they take the field this weekend at home. The visiting Toronto Argonauts can make it back-to-back victories at Mosaic Stadium on Sunday after knocking off the Riders last Saturday 30-24 at Touchdown Atlantic. The Green and White will be down a number of players due to injury, suspensions, and COVID protocols after that trip. The head coach says they are still playing to win on Sunday.
Confident we can move the ball. I mean, that's the main thing, is how confident is our offense. You know, I think those guys are key players, and we just don't have them right now. But everybody here is a good football player, Britt, and everybody here knows our system. And we always tell them it's not a matter of if you play, it's win, and that win happens to be this week.
We're professionals. If you need to draw, if you need to motivate someone or get someone fired up on a week-to-week basis, then they don't need to be here. You know, we got a job to do. We're in the business of winning football games. Next man up, doesn't matter who's in there. At the end of the day, when the game's over with, you guys are going to ask if you won or lost, not who was playing.
You have that sour taste in the mouth from last week, and so, I mean, regardless of any X factor, or factors that may have happened, we still want to go out there and get the W. So that's our main goal, and so that's all we're worried about.
Kickoff Sunday is at 5 o'clock. Family activities will start in Confederation Park at 2. And while they're there, fans might be talking about the new logo that the Riders have filed a trademark application for. A fan discovered the application filed July 14th earlier this week and shared it on social media. The team president and CEO says it's a bit premature to talk about its purpose, but he says they're not overhauling the traditional logo.
There's no intention of changing our logo, but we had a logo designed and we wanted to protect some intellectual property there, and so we're in the process of filing a trademark, but it by no means is an expression of any feeling towards our current S logo.
If approved, the trademark on the black and white rendering of the logo seen here would cover all kinds of items. The font on the logo also happens to match the branding for the Bring It to the Heartland theme for the Grey Cup, which will be held in Regina this November.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. The exclusive export event is back.
I don't want to say you jinxed it yesterday, but CBC weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now. You said you might get bored because things were quiet and slow, and now things are not quiet and slow.
Yeah, that's right. I put it out into the universe and things just happen. That's the power of the weather specialist, Sam. I mean, come on. Yes, not exactly a great evening for some parts of the province, but for Andre, who was out at Good Spirit Lake Provincial Park the other day, it was a beautiful evening going for a kayak there with some sun and cloud as the sun went down, and that lake just looks like glass. It is so calm. But yes, we do have a little bit of unsettled weather right now. Severe thunderstorm watch in place for the Weyburn-Estevan as well as the Carlisle-Oxbow-Carnduff region. And there is a warning in place just south of there as well. Scattered showers pretty much between Regina and Saskatoon are moving along the Yellowhead Highway. But it is this cell that we are focusing on, which now basically stretches from just north of Estevan over to east of Oxbow and now over toward Carnduff. And the severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for the RM of Estevan, Coalfields, which includes Bean Fate, as well as Enniskillen, which includes Oxbow, and Northgate, which is down at the border. Environment Canada saying torrential rain with this storm. Not often that they say that. Ping-pong ball-sized hail is likely, and very strong winds as well. Now, those storms could continue through the evening hours, specifically in that southeast corner, but they will move out through the night and we will get some clearing. And as we head into tomorrow, a mostly clear day. I think the only area that we'll be concerned about for storms would be in the Churchill region, but those should stay on the non-severe side of things. And then we get to Sunday, and there is another system that's going to be moving through the north of the province. And as that moves through, that could bring some heavier rain to especially the very far north, like Stony Rapids and Fond du Lac and Uranium City. And then Monday, we watch another system which will be moving in from Alberta, and this will be bringing anywhere between 5, 10, maybe 15 millimeters to central Saskatchewan, places like Lloydminster, Prince Albert, over toward Hudson Bay. This is just for this weekend and just for the north with that system moving through on Sunday. Again, between 10 and 15 millimeters for northern locations, and in the Churchill region, really kind of between 2 and 5 millimeters, I think is what we'll see. Now, wind gusts tomorrow will be close to 40 kilometers an hour, especially in the southeast part of the province as severe weather starts to move out, but calm for pretty much the rest of the province. And as we get into Sunday, all of us enjoying some lighter wind gusts as well. Now, tonight, there is a chance that we could see some aurora, specifically between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. There is a geomagnetic storm that's happening with the sun is emitting some solar flares. We don't know exactly how strong this is going to get, but there is a possibility that we could see the KP index get as high as 6 out of 10, which it hasn't been that high in quite some time. So you might want to head out this evening, especially since it's a Friday, and it should be fairly nice since we see storms clear out. A little cool tomorrow in Regina, but then we get some nice temperatures for the Rider game before that rain moves in early next week. Saskatoon, again, a bit of a cooler day tomorrow. Nice day on Sunday, 1 to 3 millimeters possible with that system on Monday. But finally, a weekend here, Sam, where we're not going to get blown away or have to suffer with the extreme heat.
Really low bar.
Yeah, right?
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. Hockey Canada is facing another controversy. The organization is now dealing with a new sexual assault allegation. It apparently involved members of the 2003 Canadian World Junior Men's Hockey Team. Halifax was hosting an international tournament at the time of the alleged assault. Hilary Johnstone has more on the story.
Hockey Canada says members of its 2003 men's World Junior Hockey Team are accused of a group sexual assault. They say that they became aware of the allegation last night when a TSN reporter contacted the organization. Hockey Canada says that reporter had, quote, disturbing details about this alleged incident, alleged to have happened back in 2003 in Halifax. Hockey Canada says that it immediately contacted the Halifax Regional Police, and it is now encouraging anyone else with information to also contact the Halifax Regional Police. Now, we've heard from Halifax Police today confirming that they've been in touch with Hockey Canada, saying that they're taking this seriously, but not releasing any more details. We've also heard from the National Hockey League today, and in a statement, it said, quote, "We were made aware earlier today of the horrific allegations against members of the 2002-2003 Canadian National Junior Team. The National Hockey League will look into the allegations and will respond appropriately." Now, of course, Hockey Canada has been in the spotlight in recent months after another historic alleged sexual assault came to light in London, Ontario back in 2018 after a gala dinner. Hockey Canada has also been under fire just this week after some unearthed court documents showed that it had a fund that it maintained with the help of membership fees from across the country to pay for uninsured liabilities, including to settle sexual assault claims. We've heard from the Prime Minister on all of this several times this week, saying that a reckoning was needed at Hockey Canada as well. And of course, Hockey Canada has seen its federal funding paused or suspended, along with funding from corporate sponsors as well after that alleged 2008 assault came to light. The Prime Minister saying just recently as well that not only does Hockey Canada need to work to restore confidence so that the federal government feels confident in it, but also for parents, so that parents across the country who put their children into the sport, into hockey, that they feel confident in the governing body as well. Hilary Johnstone, CBC News, Ottawa.
And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And after a chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening, and we start clearing out overnight, we will see mainly sunny skies in Regina at 8 a.m. at 15 degrees. Wind fairly light out of the north at about 20 kilometers an hour. That will pick up slightly as we head to the noon hour at 20 degrees. We'll keep those mainly sunny skies around. In Saskatoon, we are looking for 14 degrees at 8 a.m. under mainly sunny skies. Won't crack 20 degrees quite yet at noon as we see mainly sunny conditions. More cloud cover will be building in later through the afternoon. And if you're heading to the Rider game on Sunday, looks actually quite nice. Kickoff forecast at 5 p.m. at Mosaic, 24 with mainly sunny conditions. Look at those winds, nice and light. A kicker-punter's dream, Sam.
Oh, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is all we have for you this week. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or /Saskatoon, or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn, Reed, and Ethan will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Thank you for watching, and have a great weekend.